Creating content is not for the weak. Being an artist is not for the weak. I think that's a good way to kind of start off my random rants this time around. Hi, the random rants. Jay Khalif in the building. I'm in the building. I think the great way to start this rant is my sharing a little bit of my journey as an artist slash content creator, because they can intertwine. So, I've always been a fan of hip hop. I've always been embedded in hip hop culture since birth. You can probably tell by my content on this YouTube channel. You should probably check those out, by the way. The music, the social commentary, the rants, the reviews. Matter of fact, why don't you even subscribe? What the hell is wrong with y'all? I've always tried to freestyle, wasn't good at it. I wrote my first rhymes in 2010. Junior year, Siegel High School, Murfreesboro, Tennessee. I was in the English class in which we had a teacher that instructed us to get a notebook and write on it. Now, the shit about that was he didn't care about what we wrote. It could have been a grocery list. It could have been a recipe list. It could have been journals or diary entries. It could have been poetry or raps. That's what he kind of inspired and pushed me to start doing with my notebook. The ironic part of it is that his name was Mr. Carter. The irony about it, one of my favorite rappers is Jay-Z. And Mr. Carter being the one to inspire me to start putting my feelings on a notebook. It's crazy. God's funny that way. Fast forward 2 years, at 20 years old, I wrote my first raps with my friends, Lionel, Justin, and my brother Achille. We formed a group called Basic. Just 4 dudes writing some reality raps throughout the years. And for a couple years, we was trying to get a little buzz. We was on it. We was making songs after songs, dropping mixtapes. That Piff era cannot be replicated. You Zoomers missed out on the blog era. It was phenomenal. Now, granted, us being some nerdy rappers in the middle of a country hick Nashville when country music is support, they didn't care about hearing no reality raps. They cared about Luke Bryan, Justin Bieber, and Morgan Wallen. If they didn't want to turn up, they didn't care about some brothers rapping. But we was making an effort. But of course, life happened several years down the line. And I took a hiatus because life became so difficult to deal with that writing raps became more of a chore than a passion. But during those 2 years of hiatus, I fell back in love with writing raps again, because it became less of something just to do for fun and more of something to do as a sense of therapy. It became something that was a part of me. I started to see the poetry of things again. But when I returned in 2019, the rap game had changed compared to how it was 7 years ago. The environment was different. 3-verse songs started to get more played out. It started to become more common to get a song that was more catchy to grab the person's eye than to create a cohesive song for people to listen through all the way. And fast forward to 2025-26, still an artist, still making music. It is even more difficult with the algorithms of both Instagram and YouTube, as well as the complicated content of TikTok. Promoting your stuff on Twitter is obsolete now. It's wishful thinking. There is no more Piff. Even hip hop media blogs that share hip hop content can be bought. So now anybody can hop on it. It became a lot more difficult to create content as an artist, and it still is. You have to show your personality as an artist, which in some cases are a good thing because you know what you're in store for. But people can fake the funk even easier now. And you have to make sure your content is so visually appealing that they're willing to listen to the music. Because you can't just post the album cover and your music and hope people to listen to it. If you ain't got no buzz, you got to put yourself out there, which requires a lot of work. I had a discussion with my boy Afro Ninja and my other friends about the complications of being a content creator and an artist. Because while they're not musical artists, they're also artists in their own way. My boy Afro Ninja, y'all should follow him, Afro Ninja _world. They're always a gone on that. He does graphic designing for anime characters. commissions, all that. And honestly, he's done a great job at it. But even he struggles at it, and he struggles to get commissions and gets notoriety off of that. He understands that he has to show some of his personality. That can be pretty frustrating for somebody who likes his privacy. As a guy who likes his privacy, that can be a very huge obstacle to jump over. You want to produce genuine content, but in this ADHD generation times 10, you have to make sure you keep the listeners' eye open and ears open at all times, it seems like. I don't think people understand how hard it is to be an artist. You have to not only create the content, but you also not only have to have the idea, a genuine idea, but you also have to create the content. You also got to be understanding that a lot of people might be creating that same type of content, so you kind of find your way to stand out, which being yourself can work out, but some people tended to take their character to the extreme, of course. You also got to make sure you have the equipment. For me, it's like having to make sure I have the right interface that's working. Pop filter, mic stand, microphone, recording program, laptop that holds all that data. Make sure you have the right beats. Also learning to mix and master. I had to do 5 years to learn to mix and master because I was inspired and motivated due to getting ripped off by a well-known shady producer 10, 15 years ago. I should probably tell that story one of these days. Maybe I will. And to do all that and just to get only 50 to 100 views and maybe 1 like and no comments, it's heartbreaking. That shit is heartbreaking. Keep in mind, all that equipment that I mentioned, it's pricey, it's costly. Look at the economy. A lot of us are broke these days.
I'm broke, nigga, I'm broke.
When people fail to understand, they see the Kai Cenats, they see the Andantes, they see the Cinna Brits, they see the Valkyrie Rays, they see the RDC Worlds, and they get inspired, but they get intimidated by the success, or they get delusional or think they can easily get like that, forgetting that they've been at it for decades. I remember seeing all of them. I remember seeing Corey Kenshin and Berlizzi and RDC World from the just barely trying to get views with their shorts and paving the way for other brothers and other nerdy brothers to do the same thing. This is not easy, and it can get frustrating down the way because you want to make sure your work is paid off. All that hard work and hard sweat, whether it be your music, your art, your content on Twitch, your gaming content, your podcast, you want it to do numbers, you want to matter. And that's how desperation happens, and you start doing clickbait titles and you start making bullshit just to get them views. I say this to say, don't stop creating for don't stop genuinely creating. And when I say genuinely creating, I mean make content from the heart. Make content that you enjoy. Make music that you enjoy. Make art that's legitimate. Because there is a room for that. It is going to be hard. It is going to be difficult. I struggle with that every day. I am in my 30s, and while 30s is not old, y'all, I have to discern that there are other things in life that I want to do that's going to make things more complicated as a content creator and as an artist. Or in the family, continuing my career as a chemist/scientist. Keep it in the back of my mind of the events in the world that could affect me in the ways that I can't control. You have to recognize that. But you still should create. You still should keep making the music. For all my content creators, for all my rappers out there, I want you guys to keep creating some genuine music. Keep creating some genuine content. Not some watered down stuff in which you're trying to do the most absolute most to get the views. No, make music, make content that you could be proud of. And if you see somebody that isn't big or isn't notoriety and makes good content, support them. People who don't make content, if you see people, or you see your friends, you see your homeboy that you know make good content, because you know how many times I get told I make good music, but when I post it on my story, nobody interacts with it or promotes it. Promote it. Support each other. Build a community. Don't think you're too big to look at other artists and support other artists that don't have that same luxuries as you do. Support. Even if it's not something for you, because you can share it to somebody else, and somebody in your followers might mess with it and share it. That's what community is. You gotta take pride in the small victories. You get 10 more views than you did in your last post. That's a victory. That's a W. If you get 1 subscriber off of your latest YouTube video, that's a W. If you get 1 extra comment from somebody new that's saying, you know what, I really like your music, dog, where can I find some more of it? That's a W. Take pride in the small victories. Don't get so obsessed with the big ones, because that's how you lose heart and that's how you lose motivation. Always do it for the art, because that's what matters most. Not what gets views, not what gets engagement, not what gets the viral moment. Stuff that you can be proud of. Y'all take care. And seriously, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe, because the brother needs some support.
I'll be heralded as GOAT before I die or fold. Be further proof of a stereotype told of a rose that never grows, choosing to dwell in the mold. Studying past mishaps, not just to learn, but remind us even minor shit leads to points of no returns. Coming from the dirt, spotting less flowers than the worms. Hard to build bridges.